Dear students, let us start the discussion on today's newspaper, that is 27th December 2016. The first article, it is time to repeal the FCRA by G. Sampath. This Foreign Contribution Regulation Act, it was the question in UPSC last before year. Now here we will study what are the origins of this act and then what are the double standards in its practice and what is the way forward. You all know that FCRA stands for Foreign Contribution Regulation Act. As for this, any organization, if it is receiving the foreign donations, it has to get the certification from the Ministry of Home Affairs. In 1976, when the law was made, the situation was entirely different from today. In those days, there was Cold War and the USSR was trying to interfere with the politics of the developing countries. And Prime Minister Indira Gandhi was very suspicious about the foreign hand in Indian politics. The act was majorly directed against the political parties which are receiving the foreign funds. By 2010, the law was amended. But however, the situation was also changed dramatically. Now we are looking for the foreign funds for our economy, and also we are receiving the foreign funds with regard to various other activities, and NGOs are the major recipients of the foreign funds today. It means the general repulsion which we had as the foreign funds and suspicion, it has been done away with globalization. So in such a context, the 2010, the law was amended and it was majorly directed against the NGOs. Now if you see, NGOs are being seen as obstructionists for the development by the government. There is a trust deficit that has been developed between the government and civil society. Now we all know that in the governance today, the civil society shall be seen as a partner rather than an outsider. So finally, in this amendment, the government wanted to tighten the role of the civil society, and it wanted the civil society to follow the narrative of the development given by the government. So in this context, it has used the FCRA provisions or amended the FCRA to control the NGOs. There are three changes majorly that are draconian for the NGOs. The first one is in 1976, once the registration was made with Ministry of Home Affairs, it was permanent. Now the registration is temporary for 5 years. It means it need to be renewed after every 5 years. And the second thing is the organizations that are receiving foreign funds, these are supposed to be giving a detail of the expenditure, and only certain percentage of the money it has to be spent on the administration of the NGO. And any deviation from the established plan of expenditure, it has to be explained to the government. If they fail to do so, government can repeal their licenses. So it means it has given the power for the government to interfere with the functioning of the administration of the NGOs. And the third thing, the 1976 Act was majorly directed against the political parties. Now it is directed against the organizations that are political in nature. It means that the rights-based advocacy groups are the major targets. Among the civil society organizations, one type of organizations are advocacy groups. These are promoting for the rights and they are demanding for the rights of the citizens who are getting displaced from the developmental projects. So, any organization that is political by nature, that comes under the definition of FCRA now. So, another thing which we need to understand over here, it is related to the double standards. Now, political parties are also receiving the foreign funds. The BJP and the National Congress, these have received the funds from Vedanta, and in the process they have violated the Foreign Contributions Regulation Act because Vedanta is registered company in the UK. Then it was challenged before the High Court, and the High Court has indicted both these for the violation of Foreign Contributions Regulation Act. Then FCRA Act was amended with a retrospective effect, stating that any of the foreign company, if it is donating the funds to Indian political party from its subsidiary, Indian subsidiary, then it do not come under the violation of FCRA. That is the first thing. And second thing is, if a foreign company is investing in India or through foreign direct investments, and it is being subject or else within the scope of the limit allowed by the government under FDI, that is the foreign investment, and it is donating to the political parties, then also it do not come under the definition of foreign donations. It means it has changed the definition of foreign donation itself for the political parties. Let's take Vodafone. It has invested in the telecom sector, and if it is not crossing or if it is within the limit of the FDI allowed in the telecom sector, then if it is donating the political party, then they do not come under the definition of foreign contributions. So this is how it has been amended to slowly exclude the political parties and confine the law only to the NGOs. And the present NDA government is actively using FCRA to silence the NGOs. So in this context, let us say the reasons which it has been stated is public interest, national interest, economic interest. These are getting threatened by an XYZ NGO and it is cancelling their licenses. So here we need to understand the primary functions of the NGOs was to criticize the government, or I can say it as to evaluate the function of the government to ensure that the public interest is protected. So it means they are against to the state, they can function or criticize the state in its functioning. So anti-state activity is narrowly interpreted as the public interest and their free voice is being curtailed. That's why UN Special Rapporteur for Political and Civil Rights has clearly stated that it is violation of the UN Covenant. And also freedom of association is a human right according to the UN Human Rights Declaration. So FCRA is not within the legitimate restrictions imposed by the UN Covenant on Political Rights and also UN Human Rights Declaration. That's why they say that the FCRA is violative of both the political rights and also the human rights. That is what is being stated over here. Finally, what we can say is the way forward is the self-regulation. What I mean is the company or else the NGOs, they shall regulate themselves. For this, the Planning Commission has appointed a committee and it has said that National Accreditation Council of India has to be appointed as like the Bar Council or the electronic media regulatory bodies to regulate the NGOs in India. But however, it did not move forward and government still wants to hold the whip against the NGOs, which is not the right way in the spirit of our democracy. Now, fire in the sky. Here we need to understand that India shall have the nuclear deterrence. It means that our nuclear weapons shall distance the opponents from attacking India. In this case, for nuclear deterrence, you need to have a nuclear bomb plus a machinery to deliver the nuclear bomb. We call them as missiles. So in this, we have two types, ballistic and cruise missiles. The ballistic missiles India has mastered, and India now is able to fire the Agni class of missiles from various platforms, that is underwater platform, air and also land. So this ability to launch a nuclear weapon from three different platforms, we call it as nuclear triad. And the major problem India is facing with regard to stationing the nuclear weapons on the cruise missiles. So India has repeatedly failed on this particular front because the ballistic missiles, they take a different course and these are more strategic, but the cruise missiles are more tactical. So India has to develop this. And the second thing is the existing situation is India has the no first use policy. It means that India cannot use the nuclear weapon against a non-nuclear nation and also again a country which do not use the nuclear weapon in the first instance. It means India can use its nuclear weapons only for the second strike capabilities, of only for the second strike. So it means the second strike capabilities have to be strong if in country's doctrine has no first use policy. So for that purpose, More the strong systems we develop, then the better will be the second strike capability. And the testing of the Agni 5 from the mobile launcher, that is land based, this thing, will help us to develop the nuclear deterrence. And Congo's political battles, I don't want to deal with this, it will not be much relevance to our UPSC. But what I want to say is the people, once they come into power, they change a lot. The power corrupts the minds, and absolute power corrupts the absolutely. In Congo, the president has 2 terms, and the present president, he don't want to get down from the office after the 2 terms. And he was the person, and his father was the person who fought against the previous dictatorship. So, other than that, you don't need to know much about this Congo. Now, the mother of all disruptions by Jean Reyes. Now, in this case, let's understand the demonetization and technology. So, India has to move towards the digital economy, and the software industry, a well developed software industry, can facilitate India towards the digital economy. And the demonetization is seen as the greatest disruption that has occurred in India. So, when we say the disruption, it means the existing process of how we handle the things will be permanently changed towards simplification and better. And disruption is generally viewed as a positive thing in the software industry, and it is highly impactful. Let's take a new search engine has come up and it is replacing the Google with the better features, then we can call it as disruption. Uber, Ola are a disruption to the urban transport industry. So, in this case, the demonetization has disrupted the lives of the former street vendors in a very negative way. Now, in this, if you observe the software industry, it has got the greatest benefits out of this particular disruption, and the software products are to be adopted to the people in this country, and added to that, the software industry has to develop the new products so that they can gain the better opportunities. That is what is the objective of the important associations like iSpirit, etc. It means, so they are promoting the digital economy from very long. So here the major context is Aadhaar, did it help the software industry, or Aadhaar, did it help the welfare? So in other way around, if we see, Aadhaar has created more troubles than the benefits. Now in my institute, an Aadhaar enabled platform was established for the students to sign off, for the students to give their imprints, biometric imprints. But however, most of the times it's very difficult. At least to register, it takes 1 minute. It means that if 100 students has to get into the class, it is going to be 100 minutes. Such a complex process has been established. Now, more than Aadhaar helping the welfare, Aadhaar is helping the software industry. So similarly, demonetization, we do not know what can be its benefits in the long run, but as of now, we can see that it has disrupted the lives, but will definitely benefit the industry. So the revolving door mechanism also has entered into the software industry, where the lobbying has led for this government to go more digital, and which is benefiting the industry back. The Foreign Policy Act 3. Now, if you can see, I will use this essay to understand how to write an essay, especially in our UPSC, bringing two narratives simultaneously and explaining a situation through these narratives was very much successful in the examination. So try to see how he has brought in the Shakespeare's this thing along with the Prime Minister's functioning or diplomacy in India. So in this case, Prime Minister Modi's foreign diplomacy can be divided into 3 phases. In the first phase, there is euphoria and activism. And in the second phase, so we have got certain setbacks. And finally, today we are at the crossroads. Now, with regard to United States of America, major powers, yes, India has become a major defense partner. At the same time, our relations with Russia are on a back foot. And Russia and Pakistan relations are getting strengthened. Russia-China relations are also on positive path. So in this scenario, in the recent Heart of Asia conference, India and other South Asian countries have accused Pakistan of terrorism, which Russian ambassador has said it's too harsh a criticism. It means the Putin's Russia is developing the fissures with Modi's India. And on the other part, at the BRICS summit, India has to bring the BIMSTEC rather than the SARC. And allowing the China into the SARC is the other major challenge. When Prime Minister Modi came into power, he has took a resolve to strengthen the SARC and build the common prosperity. So, in this context, the SARC losing its significance and the cancellation of the Islamabad, the SARC conference, these are the various setbacks onto the SARC front. On Bangladesh, yes, the relations are on a positive slide. But however, with Pakistan and China, we did not see much change with regard to our relations. So, at this stage, how the diplomacy has to be taken forward is one thing which we have to see forward. And environmental impact assessment, what this article is talks about. So the public hearings are a good part of the environmental impact assessment. And EIA is a technical activity, and instead of government doing that, EIA report will be prepared by a technical expert hired by the project owner or the company which is conducting the project. That is one of the major weakness of the EIA. And the second thing is, whatever the public hearings or observations made with regard to the pollution control, they are failing in their compliance. That is another challenge. Now, coming to the main part, India needs lower taxes. You all know Laffer curve, where the lower the tax rates are, higher will be the compliance. In India, the tax base need to be widened and the tax rates have to come down to increase the compliance to the taxes. That is what Mr. Jaitley talks in the IRS Academy. Now, coming to fifth generation fighter jet. China has developed the fifth generation fighter jet, that is FC-31, counter to the US F-35. Now, India is also trying to generate its fighter jet, fifth generation fighter jet, in association with Russia. But however, this is not moving much forward. Now, the defense industry is growing across the world. China wants to enter into this defense industry, high technology defense industry, and control the Western dominance over there, especially with regard to the fourth generation fighter jets like Eurofighter, Typhoon, etc. They are very expensive, and China wants to bring in cost effective alternative in the defense industry. And come to the questions. Today I just gave you the questions. Try to answer these questions after you listen to the class so that you get some understanding of the issue. I don't want you to use the Hindi or the Hindu's language. Use your own sentences, your own understanding to explain these questions. If you are going for interview, practice that before a mirror and try to see your expressions so that you get the flow of the language, and before the interview board you can freely express your opinions to the board. So this is what my request will be. So today I have just given you the questions. Try to answer them. So once you start answering it, if I am giving you the notes, you are just reading it rather than answering these questions. That's why I have stopped giving the notes today. Please try to follow this method and really it will work. And I have got this when I went to the Harvard. The question based learning, case study based learning, it's very much successful in the Harvard Business School. So thank you very much. All the best.